next installment of the 6-page breakdown. This is part 2, continuing into penciling, talking about how to pencil faster, how to get specifically this page of penciling knocked out in about 6 hours. I'll give you the details and the tools and the methods to approach that anybody at any skill level can apply to their own comic book creation. This comic book is called Kill the Messenger. Part 1, issue 1 is finished and on my store site for you to buy. In the description, there's a link. Part 2, I'm in the midst of working on pages 7 through 12, the next chunk of 6. Why do I do 6 at a time? Well, that's going to be for another topic later on a later video. You'll understand why. Here's the first 6 that I've finished. This is a comic book story, true crime with a little bit of violence and tiny bit of sex sprinkled into it, concerning 4 roommates, mainly a bike messenger. Her name is Tabitha, and Tabitha lives in 1980s Boston, and it's set in the 80s because back then yes, there were computers. No, there was really not any internet. Yes, people needed information sent back and forth in major cities. I myself worked in San Francisco in the 1990s, and I remember very distinctly how the internet was still on its baby steps, and say one company needed to send it to another company, a contract or a document, something very important. Bike messengers were very vital. So I decided to take that up and turn this into a comic book. So fans of the true crime stories, especially my past comic book set in the 70s, Mayfield 8, would love this one. It has a little bit of a roommate kind of energy going back and forth. So I think Hernandez brothers, Love and Rockets, fans of that would love it. And it really hits that vein. I would reference myself. One of my favorite graphic novels was Ghost World with Daniel Clowes, considering two snarky, sarcastic girls trying to poke fun at life, basically, as they get out of high school. It has that kind of, Kill the Messenger has that kind of vibe, but there's a healthy dose of inner city Boston corruption and politics. So I think it would be a really cool comic book to pursue. It's coming out in March, parts 1 and 2 on Kickstarter. So again, look for that. Keep following these YouTube videos and I'll direct you straight to them. Anyway, so page 10, 6 hours. How do I do it? How do you do it when you're working on your comic book? Let's go straight to a screen grab where I introduce you to the script itself, kind of giving you the bare bones. Without any hesitation, let's go right to that, and I'll explain what's going on this page. Here, let me just walk you through the dialogue, okay? Panel 1, Tabitha quickly stuffing the contents back into the box. Tabitha, yeah, nothing. Kyla holding up a sign. Panel 2, petting zoo. Panel 3, which is the whole bedroom scene here. Tabitha, a sick joke. Kyla, who would do this? Tabitha, I know who. Someone at the party trying to get back at me. Fuck him. Tabitha again, I'll be okay. Go back out and join the festivities. And then we go down to panel 4 here. Tabitha, eyes red with cigarette, looking up at Kyla in the dark. Tabitha, I'll be with you. And then a noise coming outside the door. Hello, sweeties. And it's Kyla's in the last panel looking out in the hallway from the bedroom, and she's cheerful and her eyes are lit up. Noah's here, and that'll be the next page. Noah is basically a very loud, flamboyant drag queen who's decided to dress as a drag character for the party. It'll be a lot of fun when I get into that section here. So one thing to consider is how we can mix this up. This is page 9. It's an odd numbered page, which means we're going to turn the page down here to the next one. So as far as composition, we have a clean composition. We don't have to worry about the page on the other side affecting it. But it's good to know the geography of the room where everything is. There's a dresser, there's a bed, and so what I'm thinking about is well, Kyla says something to her. Now it's Kyla's point of view looking at Tabitha. So maybe this would be a good but on the other hand, Kyla has to be distracted looking at the sign. Okay. So then let's maybe have the bed right here, and then Tabitha putting stuff in a box right here, okay, with her legs. She's kind of leaning away from Kyla, and maybe a hint of the dresser over here, and Kyla maybe just jump ahead of time. Kyla's actually holding up the sign and looking at it. Okay, and then we go back. This is the bedroom. Okay, that's a pretty good composition. All right, and then over here, this idea here, I could do one of two ways. We could do over the shoulder. She's reading it. We're reading it with her, or she's looking at it. I think looking at it is better. Like, so we'll just basically take this little bit and blow it up with no Tabitha in this picture, just Kyla. Okay. Okay, so that took just seconds to plot this out. The dialogue reads, yeah, nothing, petting zoo. So it's literally 2 words in each word balloon. So these word balloons can be very small. So we don't have to worry about allowing a lot of space, well, a little bit of space, but not a lot of space for the word balloons. And basically it's just all structure here. So think about the dialogue, think about where the characters are, where their heads are, okay? And then we think about the shapes, okay? Like the torso, the leg, the knee. And this is where if you practice drawing the human figure, if you do life drawing, or you take pictures of yourself for reference photos, this really comes in handy because you can kind of now reference something that you're familiar with. This is where, like, the skill level, it helps if you've done this before. Okay, I know I said anybody can work on this, but there might be some things that an experienced artist would take less time on, that a lesser experienced artist would need to do a little more work on. And then so she's sitting and her friend Kyla in the background is standing holding up the note. And then over here, this is just simply going to be a okay. Now I kind of see right away the legs here are a bit of a problem. That that her waist, yeah, it's better. In the previous video, you might have seen me doing a lot of erasing and redrawing. Well, this is why, because I started imagining something and then anatomically is not quite working as and then finally we have the characters. There's supposed to be a bed here, of course, and the bedroom goes back. Here's a back wall, and here, this wall here is where the door is. The door swings out with the hinge on the left side if you're sitting in the bedroom. And I'm kind of discovering now that the dresser can't fit in here anyway. So it's just going to be her torso and a hint of a knee, hint of a leg. Probably not going to see the bed. But that's okay. You know, it's like you're kind of restructuring it. And then like her feet are down here, going back. We're just in camera. Okay, good. Kyla's feet are there. Therefore, knees, waist, boom, boom, boom. Now that looks about right. Okay. I'll do something with the legs later. So I got my basic structure in there, and as far as this one goes, on the panel 2 of this page, just hands, shoulders, and what about the background here? Let's see, like it's zooming in. Maybe put the ceiling back up here and like that. That would be good. Because I got the ceiling, and the ceiling has this nice kind of rhythm to it. One thing you think about the composition of your panels is that everything is a composition. Images are not separate unto themselves and don't relate to anything else on the page. They do relate to everything on the page. A little aside here, pretty much every comic book page will have what I call a focal point. It'll have the one part on the page that people notice the most. You know, if you have like here, this is a really, really good example here, this page. If I can't really capture it all on camera on one image, but it's obvious that her eyes on this page, if someone were to glance at it, that's the focal point. That's really where people would notice the most. So if you're making a comic book page, say with one panel with something very important happening in it, and yet you have the focal point of something like this, like eyes, keep in mind that no matter what you do, you can't force that one panel to be the most important panel. Structurally, visually, compositionally, your reader is going to go to whatever the focal point, the most visually interesting or visually noticeable element exists on your page. That's the first thing they're going to notice. Okay, and it's a good idea not to fight it, right? And to let your composition be your composition. The less you fight it, the more your script, your story, everything kind of flows into it. On this page, she's looking at a book. There's secret messages in the book, puzzling messages, cryptic, and there's going to be her thoughts in these narration boxes, and then emotional turmoil down here. So I didn't have emotional turmoil here. She's just simply looking at it. Okay, so this is a case of where I'm letting it just go with the flow, and there's this emotional spot, and then she's crying about it. So anyway, that's a little aside about, keep in mind about focal points. I got the basic structure of the page here, and let's snap. There we go. Let's snap it and zip it fast forward and work the movie magic and see this all start to happen. Okay, so let's do a quick recap of these first two panels here. You notice I was putting a little more detail in Kyla's hair. She wears dreadlocks, which I represent like kind of Raggedy Ann yarn looking pieces. That's kind of just my intentional stylized way of doing it. And we have a tab on the left here, and I was putting in more darks, laying in the blacks, and not going too overboard with it, knowing that I can do a lot more with the color. And basically using like the pencil tool and the eraser tool. This is, you can see that the process that I have here so far. I spent roughly about an hour and 20 minutes on this top here, which computes to about a 3 to 4 hour duration to pencil the whole page. Pages which have a lot of people, crowd scenes, or very specific mechanical things like you have a car, it has to be a very specific year, make, and model of a car. Those will take longer, of course. You know, it's just simply two people in a room, and their costumes, what they're wearing, isn't all that complicated. No, it's not going to take that long. So, you know, bear in mind that that will change the duration, the time that you have to pencil a page. Let's continue this idea onward to the middle panel here, and then we'll stop there for this tutorial. But let's apply again this concept of putting in the shapes, adding more stuff to it, okay, and then sharpen and remove, okay? Let's do it. Okay, here's the final view of panel 3, and as you can see, I laid in a few blacks there, putting shadows on the two characters, putting shadows on the bed, little pockets here and there. It's going to be a colored page, so I'm not going overboard with the shading. I'm considering the black to be like the last dark value after I put some dark colors in there. And of course, the door's cracked open, so there'll be a light source coming from the left. And all in all, it should turn out to be a pretty cool looking page. One rule of thumb I make with my pencils is that I try to make them look like ink as much as possible. So I remove all the, you know, the nuance, the different pressure points you do with a pencil, and just turn it more into line work. You know, maybe this could be a little bit more cleaned up. For my purposes, this is fine. I know which lines I'm going to ink and what I'm going to, you know, kind of simplify and reduce. And bottom line here is that you do have to remember that there's going to be word balloons here, here, and here. So this material visually is not going to be all that important. There's going to be word balloons happening up there. I see it happening a lot of times when artists will put their characters and their scene in a panel, and they'll forget that they have to leave room for all the talking. Unless, of course, there is no dialogue. If they know it's going to be a silent panel, that's different. Again, there's a bit more space than you would normally see if this was just a standard illustration. That's to allow for the word balloons. So I only invested about 2 hours of my time, maybe 2 hours 15 minutes. I took a few breaks, scrolling through Facebook and YouTube, and so cutting out that stuff, the pure work. I would say roughly around 2 hours to get this roughed in. And again, it's the two approaches, like working with the shapes of the faces, and then from there, well, actually the word balloons and the faces, and getting that space mapped out, and then finishing out the rest, the bodies, the rest here. And in here working in a different method of first figuring out the rectangle of the room, and then working out the faces where the word balloons go, and then the bodies within this space. I found it just faster to figure out the space first and then put the bodies in, whereas the two panels before, it was faster to figure out the bodies and then put the background, the space behind them. And so, yeah, these are methodologies, to pencil faster. You work with first. I had it on a post-it note here. Here we go. Okay. You first work on the shapes, then you add more stuff, and then you sharpen and remove. And that is that on this tutorial. We'll see you again on the next one, happening very, very soon. And there you have it. How to pencil a page faster, basically getting something with this much detail done in about 6 hours. That equates to, in a full-time job scenario, you could probably get a page and a half penciled in a day. I think that's a pretty decent rate, to be honest. Next time, 6-page breakdown, part 2. We're going to have all of these pages penciled in. I've got basically one, and I started the last 2 pages here, so I got 2 pages left to pencil. Once those are all ready, we'll talk about the mock-up, where you take those penciled pages, turn them into like a penciled version of your comic book, with the word balloons laid in, with the lettering done in Adobe Illustrator, and just to basically get a heads up and see what your comic book is starting to look like with the mock-up, with the penciled pages by themselves. It's real fun. At that time, I'll get into scanning. How do you use a small, common 8.5 by 11 scanner and take a big page like this and turn it into something that will work on your comic book page digitally. I had a huge click rate for those kinds of topics, so I think we'll tackle that again next week. Thank you very much for watching this. I hope you have a great day, and remember, keep drawing comics. You're going to get better with every comic you make.